Ism's good, pal.
Feeling pretty good, pal.
Get your vitamins in.
Got my vitamins. Got a little bit of a case of the giggles, though, because...
This town needs an enema.
Well, last night I felt like an idiot because I couldn't explain myself when Ellis and Dan were both like, I don't understand what's funny. What's funny? And I just could not stop laughing because in my periphery...
I don't remember.
You're just like around with that light. It's like all over the place.
Yeah. Like doing the thing that my son does when we go camping. He's got like his own headlamp and people are walking down like the path and he just freaking looks up and then that headlamp that's just like a billion freaking lumens is just hitting these folks right in the eyes. And they're like, And I'm like, son, don't. And he's like, huh?
Oh, God, it's so funny.
It's just like impossible for a kid not to shine a light in someone else's eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Impossible.
Yeah.
You give him a flashlight, first thing they do is just like bump right in your eyes. Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, I don't know. My kids are exactly the same way, too. Howdy, folks. Welcome back to your favorite podcast, That Would Be Rad, the podcast that majors in 80s and 90s nostalgia, comic culture, all things paranormal, and minors in retro video games, tabletop RPGs, pre-internet mysteries, and raising our kids to be half as cool as we were back in the 80s. I'm your host, Tyler Bentz, and this is your other host,
Woody Brown.
Hey, pal.
Hey, man. Long time no see.
You tired?
I am kind of tired.
Yeah, you were up late last night.
Well, playing some Dungeons and Dragons for sure, but also in the storms lately. I've just been, it's like it never fails.
Yeah.
I'm going to be woken up at 2 or 3 in the morning and,
Oh, yeah.
Just tired. And
one thing I think we should mention, the end times are coming because we here in Georgia had an earthquake a couple days back.
Yeah. Well, the earthquake originated in Tennessee, but yes,
That's
we
true.
felt the earthquake here in Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we felt the birthing pains of Armageddon. That's my new metal band.
That's the new metal band.
Yeah.
And the first hit is we had God, I just messed it up. Can't even do the joke. So tired.
Knoxville earthquake season.
Yeah.
It was pretty weird, though, I gotta say.
Well, unfortunately, I was driving. What's even weirder is just maybe like the week before, my brother-in-law's girlfriend was talking about how, hey, did you know that if you're driving in a car, you won't feel an earthquake? I'm like, no, that's not, come on, that can't be true.
Is that like a thing?
I don't know if that's a new TikTok thing that she was talking about. I'm not sure.
Of course, yeah.
But I was driving when the earthquake happened, and
Nothing.
I didn't feel it. All of a sudden, my wife's texting me, hey, did you feel that earthquake? I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then I thought, oh, man, I remembered that someone had told me that, and it's true, man. I didn't feel anything at all. And then you started texting me and everybody.
Yeah, it was wild. I mean, so I was up early. Well, it wasn't even that early. It was like 9.
I mean, that's early to you, so yeah.
It is not early to me. I've usually been at a soccer field for like 3 hours by then, at least on the weekends. But I was reading, doing a little research, and it started like shaking like all my windows in my studio. So I immediately thought, because we do not have earthquakes here very often,
Right.
that like, oh God, we're in a tornado. Like it just snuck up on me. And so like, what's funny is the second that it happened, immediately I walked out and my daughter Amelia met me in the hallway and she was like, Dad, was that a tornado? So it was like we were on the exact same page. Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. Like, it's always funny. I've been in a couple of earthquakes, especially when I lived overseas. I was.
Here we go.
Here
we go.
I lived in the Ring of Fire, and I mean that's for real what it's called. All those active volcanoes over there.
I was born in the Ring of Fire,
so I've experienced it before. But every single time, it's so weird. The human body doesn't understand what's happening. You know.
Yeah.
It's just the weirdest feeling, and it's also hilarious seeing everybody's, I thought it was, and then fill in the blank. So folks in our like neighborhood text, some people thought it was like squirrels in the attic.
Squirrels?
I'm like, yeah. My mom, like years ago, 20 years ago.
Oh, no.
There was an earthquake here. We felt it in Swanee. And she thought the same thing. She's like, I thought squirrels were under the bed. you know. So
That's amazing.
it's always funny to hear what people have to say.
Now, I when I lived in LA years and years ago, I was in a pretty nice hotel. So I was like pretty far up, and it was the first one that I'd ever been on or been in, and it was
First hotel he's ever been on.
the very first time.
Just doe-eyed and looking up and around. This is the first hotel I've ever been on.
Just wide-eyed wonder. No, but I was. It lasted like, I don't know. I mean, it was like 45 seconds, and it was the weirdest thing. It just felt like you were kind of like underwater or something. It felt like you're like, like when the tide's like really strong and it's kind of like sweeping your feet off of the sand, like if you're, in the ocean. It felt something akin to that almost. And it was, I don't know, I'll never forget it.
It's undescribable if you've never experienced it, for sure.
Indescribable, you mean?
That's what I said, indescribable. If you haven't experienced it, for sure. That's how it's going to sound to everybody else. So.
All right, pal. What are we getting into today?
All right. So initially, I thought this topic would be something that we might, talk about over on the Patreon. But what I found was, while we still will, I kind of wanted to bring this up on the main show.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're going to be let me just do this. Let's just dive right in, man, and we'll figure out what we're talking about as we go. Got it?
Yep.
All right. Everyone, here's what I want you to do. Picture this for just a second. You're deep in a forest. The branches of the trees are gnarled and twisted like arthritic fingers reaching across the sky, blotting out the sunlight in these long, shadowy veins that stretch across the forest floor. Everything is unnaturally quiet. That is until you hear a snap, a whisper, a low groan that should be the trees moving, but it sounds just a little too human. Now, I don't know if you've ever had that moment before, folks listening. Maybe you're out on a hike or you're walking the dog late at night when your brain just kind of decides it's time to activate every single horror movie you've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's just a me thing,
Yeah. For me, it activates the Night of the Harlequin story.
Well, there you go.
Every time, yeah.
And like in your heart, logically, there's probably nothing out there, and yet the hair on your back.
Uh-oh.
Of course, if you're me.
Dude. I love that your mind immediately went to the hair on your back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf. Let me just take the whole thing again. There's something deep inside of you. There's something deep inside of you that, logically, there's probably nothing out there lurking in the dark, but there's just something about it. And no matter what, the hair on the back of your neck stands straight up like it knows something that you don't. It's that innate, almost instinctual thing that we have sometimes, these reactions.
Yes, it's that. I think it's like that primitive, almost like code written in your DNA to fight or flight, sort of that early.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that. It's like leftover genetic.
Yeah.
From ancient times to help you survive.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond sort of what we rely on, I guess, now as modern humans, which is just like, I feel like we rely less on our senses than we actually think. Of course, eyes and ears and stuff. But back then, our ancestors would have been much more attuned to it,
Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting about this? And I'm not trying to derail here, but when I had like all those, and for our long-time listeners, you know what I'm talking about. But for our new listeners,
when Tyler gets scared, he starts to cry.
I just weep uncontrollably. No, but when I had these, sort of this little period of time where like I was seeing these orbs in this loft that I used to live in up in North Georgia, it got to the point where almost a minute before I would see them, my eyes would just start like welling up with water, and like water would just start streaming down my face, like. And it was weird because it was like my body's way of the like what we're talking about, that primitive like code in your DNA, like knew before my, rational brain knew what was going to happen.
Right.
Which I've always found so fascinating.
Oh, yeah. It's really awesome that kind of stuff still, resides in us.
Mm-hmm.
Most people ignore it, though,
Oh, yeah.
Me, on the other hand, sometimes I might even confuse my own sort of lack of
bravery.
I guess, no, not bravery, man.
Courage.
Just like, I don't really want to go in there for no reason. Courage, somebody that I care about's in there, I'm running in head first and I'm ready to, fight.
That's true.
Just going in there for the fun of it, not interested.
Yeah.
All right. Like I said, though, there's this thing out there sometimes. We've talked about so many cases where people maybe should have trusted their gut because it's not just your imagination. So today, let me introduce you to the Hoia-Baciu Forest. This place is nestled just west of Cluj-Napoca.
Made that up.
Change it. Which is smack in the heart of Romania's Transylvania region. And yeah, that's the Transylvania. We're talking Dracula country here, folks.
Oh, yeah.
This is a land already soaked in vampire folklore, werewolf legends. But honestly, this forest, I'm going to say it again, Hoia-Baciu, might be creepier than all of that combined. So this forest has been nicknamed the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania. And honestly, for good reason. Even though it's pretty tiny, actually, it's just about 1 square mile.
What?
Yeah, dude, it's absolutely packed with paranormal weirdness and, of course, rad strangeness. You've got ghosts, glowing orbs, shadowy figures, disembodied voices, UFO sightings, people vanishing without a trace, magnetic anomalies, dogs and cats living together. I'm kidding.
Oh, boy.
But that's just the highlight reel, man. It's not just a spot known to the locals anymore. This place has attracted researchers from all over the paranormal community, ghost writers, ufologists, people chasing magnetic field distortions, even skeptics, of course, who just want to see what all the fuss is about. And they don't walk away saying, it's overblown. In fact, most of them walk away saying things like, I felt like I was being watched, or like we talked about with Ellis last night, my equipment shut down for no reason.
Yeah.
My compass just started spinning in circles. My personal favorite, though, is someone said something like this, which is, I had this sudden, overwhelming feeling that something wanted me to leave.
Of dread. Yeah.
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 Now, the name Hoia-Baciu actually comes from a super old legend. The story goes that a baci, which is Romanian for shepherd, once wandered into the forest with 200 sheep. And then, just like that, gone.
Wow.
No bodies, no bones, not even a single tuft of wool.
Wait, when was this? Is this like a long
It's just
time
an
ago?
old legend, man.
Because what's kind of fascinating about that? It's like, what if this? We're getting crazy right out of the gate here, but like,
Okay.
what if it is like some sort of elemental kind of thing, and the forest is like sort of its own kind of entity, window area, whatever, and him bringing in all these sheep in almost acted like a massive like sacrifice. So it sort of powered up this area and made it what it is today.
Or maybe he was instructed to do so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I can't wait to hear more of your theories. But
Okay.
it's like this shepherd and these sheep basically walked into the trees and just blinked out of existence. So it spooked the locals so bad that people started to avoid the forest altogether. It became that place, the one where kids kind of dare each other to go into. but not the adults.
Yeah.
In fact, they just wouldn't talk about it. Not because they didn't believe the stories, no, but because they do. And we know that, like, a lot of the old folklore that came from this region, in this part of the world, I'll say, even broader, it's like, to us, by the time we fast forward, 1,000 years or whatever,
Yeah.
it kind of all seems a little silly. But back then, they would take that stuff so serious. You wouldn't even speak an evil word out of your mouth for fear that it might hear you,
Yeah, right. It's kind of how like a lot of like your indigenous tribes or your natives, that they won't even say the word skinwalker.
Yeah.
It's like you're kind of like, you don't want to, invite the abyss to look back at you, kind of thing.
Especially not to Wachichu.
What is that?
That means white person, man. Come on.
Okay.
You're no Indian.
Racist.
Okay. There's also a darker legend. Some say the forest is haunted by the tortured spirits of murdered peasants, and that it doesn't just scare people off, it judges them. They say if you walk into this forest with dark intentions, the forest will reflect that darkness right back at you and punish you accordingly. I mean, that's incredible, man. That's not just haunted.
Yeah.
That's like haunted with a rule set, which kind of goes back to what you were saying just a minute ago, which is this is some sort of living thing.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds stupid. I'm talking about a forest. Obviously, it's a living thing. I mean, like it's
like its own entity.
Sentient.
Sentient. Yeah.
And once you see the pictures of this place, it's kind of hard not to believe the hype, honestly. The trees look unnatural, twisted into these eerie, sometimes spiraling shapes, but mainly just like this weird, like crooked shape. It's almost as if they've been physically sort of wrenched by some unseen force. Some trunks look burnt for no reason. Some people say that the bark itself looks like it's got screaming faces in it.
Which, dude, I mean, I know we're going to get into more of this on the Patreon, but I swear, like, as soon as you sent these photos to me, I thought that you had I thought these were photos from the Montana vortex, which I went to.
Right.
Because it's the exact same, whatever phenomena that's happening.
Yeah.
Like and they say that it's like an electromagnetic field kind of thing.
Yeah. And when we talk about that later tonight for the patrons or for our best friends over on the Patreon, I'll agree with you here as well, though. I mean, 100%. And you're going to like this part. See, it's not just the trees that are freaky. Visitors constantly report, and this is similar to any mystery spot, they constantly report nausea, anxiety, overwhelming dread, and then just this need to get out, even if nothing's actually happened yet. Like panic attacks, excessive thirst, and then this freaky sense that you're being watched from just behind the tree line.
Yeah.
And I mean, I visited the mystery spot in Santa Cruz, California. And I didn't feel like panicky, but I did feel like weird and like kind of like just off balance and dizzy.
Yeah,
and
me too.
Sort of like, I don't know if you ever had like, oh God, what is it called?
Vertigo.
Yeah. But it's just
It's
another,
like
it's kind of like what we were just talking about with like earthquakes. It's just the weirdest feeling, unnatural feeling,
What was weird about the one in Montana is like, so I guess, over the years they had gotten to the point where they were like, okay, we believe that there's a vortex here. And then there's a, one that's like the leaning house was built over, which it really, I mean, there is no explanation. There's no like trickery, no sort of illusion type thing. Like it really is bizarre. But then there was the other one where he was like, and we continued the tour. We did the whole tour thing. And he was like, then there's another one here. And it was like all the trees were sort of like curling inward. And he was like, a lot of people explain what you just said, like anxiety or sort of panicky kind of like vibratory type feelings. But he was like, but if you stand in the middle of it, some people talk about, if they have like pain in their back or their joints or whatever, it'll clear up. And usually if you're standing in the middle, like it'll induce like a feeling of like calm. And like, dude, I swear to you, maybe it was a placebo effect. I'm not taking that off the table, but
Sure.
but I swear, dude, it definitely. I have really messed up back that just it's just constant pain, and it did kind of felt like I don't know, like your joints or whatever were kind of like heating up, which kind of when you use like the have you ever used those like
Nope.
Okay, those like electro like tensor units. Like the like little pads that like shock, to kind of
Yeah.
It felt kind of like that, to where like your pain kind of went away because it felt like it was like heating up or something. Like it was shocking. Yeah,
What's interesting, it's easy for, you just kind of did innocently, sort of saying, well, it also could be the placebo effect, and blah, blah, blah. Which,
just because
no, but hold on, it definitely could have. But what does that say about the power that we have then?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That to me is just equally as amazing. The fact that, now, not all the time does that work, that's why the placebo trials are done, is to show the evidence of whatever it is that you're testing. But it is pretty interesting sometimes that you can still achieve something, just not at a great, as at the same rate as whatever you're testing against.
Yeah.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Hosting season's here. Are your windows guest ready? Early access to Blinds.com's Memorial Day mega sale is on now. Blinds.com invented a better way to shop for window treatments, completely online with upfront pricing, no showroom markups, no salespeople in your home. Choose from classic shutters to outdoor shades and more, all backed by our 100% satisfaction guarantee. Shop Blinds.com's Memorial Day mega sale early access now. Save up to 40% site-wide, plus a free measure. Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
The NBA playoffs are here, and I'm getting my bets in on FanDuel. Talk to me, Chuck GPT. What do you know?
All sorts of interesting stuff, even Charles Barkley's greatest fear.
Hey, nobody needs to know that.
New customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. 21 plus and present in Virginia. Must be first online real money wager. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
It's a pretty cool place if you're a Martian.
Or a vampire.
You think you really know what's happening around here, don't you?
Is anyone out there?
We're fighters for truth, justice, and the American way.
Hey, this is Woody.
And this is Tyler. And you're listening to That Would Be Rad.
And now, back to our show.
I mean, I think that the only reason I say that is because he did kind of like, he was already talking about it. So we did kind of go in like sort of front end loaded.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, we're also standing in an area where like every single tree is like completely bent in the middle, like curved inward towards this supposed vortex. So
yeah, what would you say? Like, what letter does that look? I'm trying to, obviously we're going to have pictures of these trees on our Instagram so that you can get that visual.
Oh, I know what it is.
Of what it is, but
I would say at least the ones at the Montana vortex were like a cent sign, like 10 cents.
That's great. Yep, exactly. Yeah. So like the tree goes vertically up, and then close to the ground, it makes that C of the cent symbol, and then goes back down, straight down. It's the weird, and then there's just tons of them that are like this.
Well, the weird thing that was a little bit different about the photos that you sent, and I don't know if it's because maybe like the trees are older or something, but like the ones from the Romanian forest that you're talking about, they kind of go the middle instead of just kind of going straight out, like 90 degree. They kind of like curve back down and like touch the ground at the bend,
right?
Which is kind of odd.
Yeah, and well, I'll get to that in just a second.
Okay.
So it's the situation where we're kind of just like adding layer upon layer of creepy, right? Because if you're just in a dark forest by yourself, you might not get scared, or you might ignore those instinctual feelings that you get that something's off. But now put yourself in a place where these trees look like this. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
You're just kind of like, and just imagine, you're just creeping past one of those twisted trees and you suddenly get hit with a migraine so bad that it feels like your skull's trying to escape your body. Tyler, you can relate to that directly, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You feel dizzy, disoriented, maybe even a little nauseous, and then boom, everything goes dark. Now, here's the weird part, bro. You wake up in a totally different part of the forest. You've got no clue how you got there. No memory of walking. No, oh man, I must have passed out. You're not on the ground. Just pure confusion.
Dude, that is straight up my missing time at the hospital.
And here's what's crazy too, man. This isn't just a one-off. This is something that people actually report in this forest. They've told stories about blackouts, memory loss, and even, get this, man, even full-on astral projection.
Wow.
People have described hovering over their own bodies, looking down at themselves, passed out in the grass, just like staring into their own, I don't know, paranormal YouTube TV show. Right. And then they just slam back into their bodies like something yanked the cord.
Wow. Man, that's amazing. I wonder if there is something to, I don't necessarily think that it is an actual like electromagnetic thing, but for the sake of the story, what if that sort of phenomenon, whether it be electromagnetic, whatever it is, like what if that is like some kind of like activator for, like whatever that is, the remote viewing stuff, the astral projection stuff, it's almost like it's able to like sort of push your astral self, I guess, out of your body kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then with that same line of thinking, then it's like, well, could you like replicate that?
Yeah.
And then utilize that same wave of energy or whatever to sort of push people that maybe are better suited to do that astral projection more successfully. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if we just came with a movie idea, but there you go.
And also, real quick, sorry, I 100% think, and I'm sure the locals do too, I think this is like a window area, just like, all the others.
Right.
Like the Bridgewater Triangle, over here in the States.
Well, here's the thing too. It's not just this sort of astral projection, sort of out of body, missing time stuff. There's also physical aspects that happen. Nosebleeds, scratches, bruises, welts, random burns.
Yeah.
People actually come out of this thing with these injuries and they're like, what the heck? I haven't even touched anything. And they have bruises and stuff. They walk out of there like they've been in a bar fight with a ghost.
Wow.
There's even this recurring theme of people feeling these phantom sensations. Gusts of cold air out of nowhere. Like you mentioned, electric tingling like static climbing up their arms.
Yeah.
Or the weird feeling of something just brushing past their face, all while standing dead still. And I mean, yes, of course, people could chalk it all up to like, well, I went in there, especially nowadays, you're kind of going in just like you did somewhat. You kind of go in there with some expectations.
Yeah, right.
So you're not really giving it an unbiased view. You're kind of expecting something to happen. Yeah. It's kind of like you go out into the woods to hunt Bigfoot. Any sound you hear is going to be Bigfoot.
Yeah, right.
So it's tough because I don't know that I could go into this forest without just feeling like, oh man, did you feel that? You know what I mean? You're certainly going to be hypersensitive to that.
Yeah, but I will say and again, I'm only judging from, another quote unquote like vortex area in Montana here in the U.S. But I mean, again, what you said, I think our brains and our sort of physiology, whatever, can definitely sort of replicate that and make you feel like you're feeling something. But at the same time, like there is definitely like a difference when you walk into these areas. Like it really is like your whole body, actually going back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the episode when, we were talking about it's like your primitive, instincts kick up like before your logical brain does. So it's like your body knows that something's going on, like before you're even logically able to understand it, Right. And so I do think that there's definitely something like you do feel. It's not just like, oh, I think I feel something. It's like no. There's like there's something interacting with your physiology.
Yeah. And dude, it's kind of like what they say when people, and the Native Americans used to do this as well. Like they really paid close attention to animals' behavior.
Oh, right.
Because they would be sort of almost like harbingers of something weird about to happen, because arguably they're more sensitive to changes in, magnetic field or, all that stuff. And so to me, there's no doubt that there's something within our probably, shallow understanding of the world of physics, as advanced as we do have one. There, there's something that's happening there that you can feel the effects of,
Yeah, right.
And you don't have to go far on the internet to hear people talking about, rubbing rocks against your head to heal whatever, So, I mean, and that's not to make fun of. That's not to make fun of that at all. It's just, in the same respect, these types of energies or forces, whatever you want to call them, are occurring naturally in the world. And maybe that's what this is. But here's the thing. It's not just nerves or environmental stuff that happens here, man. Now we're going to be talking about the ghost stories that people have.
Which, before you get into this, it definitely makes you think that, to me, when I think of like these window areas and stuff, it always kind of takes me to the same sort of outcome of like, well, what came first? Like, because I think...
The window or the area? I'm kidding, dude. Okay.
Well, no, but like the idea that like I think we've sort of been conditioned, because of media and movies and all that stuff, which I think is definitely making a complete kind of 180 in the last few years. But up until let's just say like up until like 2010, I guess, your average person would say, "Oh, this place is haunted because this Indian tribe died, or these peasants all, mysteriously died, and so they're haunting the area." As opposed to like, well, no. Maybe all these ghost stories are happening because this area was already its own thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is what I kind of lean to.
Right. Well, man, this is just so crazy because already, again, if I am looking at like I don't know what you would call it, maybe if we're in the Scooby-Doo show, like Fry-Toe-meter or something, but I'd already, if I felt any of those things, I'd be like, somebody would have to be like, "Hey man, you want it?" And I'm like, "Yep." And then we'd just leave. Okay.
Yeah.
But not only do all of those things happen, but people hear voices. And I'm talking actual out loud voices, laughing, whispering, speaking in strange languages.
Wow.
That's not it. They see faces, full-on faces, disfigured, distorted faces that appear in front of them. Sometimes they show up in photos that were totally normal when the person snapped the picture. But once the film gets developed, boom, creepy face in the background, or worse, right next to them.
Man.
Even wilder, man, some people say that the trees themselves grow faces. Like real fleshy, haunted faces in the bark.
Wow.
So it's like, imagine taking a stroll and then suddenly the tree next to you like starts smiling.
Jeez, dude.
And that's not it, bro. That's what I'm saying. This place is packed to the gills in this, almost square mile of forest. There's this black fog. Not a mist. I'm talking straight up, thick, inky fog that just rolls through like a living thing.
Dude, every single thing that you've just talked about is all featured in our
D&D. Yeah.
Trees with faces,
all that
me
stuff.
being a djinn, black fog.
Yeah. And then there are these, inside this fog, man, there are these glowing red eyes that show up as well. And then they're kind of spotted floating between trees like sentient lanterns of doom.
Wow.
People have also caught EVPs in the forest, electronic voice phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like these little snippets of ghostly speech that pop up when no one else is talking around.
Oh, yeah.
Folks have picked them up on radios, handheld recorders, even cell phones. But here comes the part that I got to say, like, probably if I'm thinking about the history of our show, things we've talked about, this is the one that sort of was the gateway to me thinking about a lot of this stuff. And that is the lights.
Yeah.
So one of the most commonly reported things in this forest are these bizarre flickering orbs of light that just float among the trees.
Dude, I swear, like, I'm glad you're bringing this up because I feel like all the stuff that I experienced, I feel like it was maybe in one of those, like, little window area type things, you know?
Well, it's also amazing to me that we've never talked about this place.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? So they appear to sort of, these lights, they appear to dance around for a bit, then disappear again like something or someone cut their power. There's no, like, source, no explanation, no heat signatures either. You know, because we've talked about some cases where people will see almost like a mothership and then these little things coming from them. Not in this case. They're just like little dancing lights that just disappear.
Yep.
They don't pop up on the thermal cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Paranormal teams, of course, take these thermal cameras and infrared rigs in the forest and they get nothing. No heat, no logical explanation, nothing like that.
It kind of reminds me of like the Brown Mountain lights up in North Carolina too.
Or the ones out in Australia that we talked about long ago.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yep. Or the ones in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So these things don't follow any kind of schedule either. They just show up when they want to. And as if we need more spice in this rad strangeness stew, we've got some poltergeist activity too, my friends.
Wait, what is it Timothy Renner that he coined the term, like, it's not poltergeist. It's basically like a poltergeist in the woods, like Wildergeist or something.
Something like that, yeah.
I can't remember, but yeah.
So people's bags, cameras, even full backpacks have been tossed into the woods. People have been shoved to the ground, yanked backwards, pushed sideways, like something invisible just decided to throw hands, man. Do a little shadow boxing. Haruken. Okay. And get this, man, there's actual video evidence of it. So, like we knew it would, in an episode of Destination Truth.
Still love that show.
Shout out to that show for being peak 2000s paranormal TV.
Joshua Gates.
The crew is investigating this forest when one of their guys, Evan, is just sitting in a clearing, minding his own business. And then, bam, this flash of light happens.
Dude, I remember this. He's sitting in like the round clearing. Yeah. Because there's like, isn't there like an area where like nothing grows?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think he goes in the middle, and it like legitimately like scares him.
Yeah. There's this flash of light, and then he gets yanked across the clearing like a rag doll, man. There's no wires, no wind machine, just like this jarring hit, like he got drop kicked by a ghost. You know?
Yeah. Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
When they check him afterward, he had scratches all up and down his arms. And then here's the kicker, man. He was wearing a long sleeve shirt the whole time. No thorns, no branches, just fresh scratches underneath his clothes.
Wow.
Now, years ago, on the side of my house, I had these blackberry bushes that they were just wild blackberries between my house and our neighbor's house. And they just looked crummy, dude, you know? And honestly, they also blocked the way to one of the AC units. Mm-hmm. And so I had to clear it out.
Yeah.
Man, I get in there early on a Saturday morning. I've got a long sleeve, kind of baggy, because I knew that if it was, you know, any kind of fitted, those thorns are just going straight through me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those thorns went straight through me anyway, bro. But they also stick to the fabric, the t-shirt material. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just like break off the branch and they just like stuck in there.
Oh, yeah.
And so, long story short, I ended up getting these like long elbow-length leather gloves to help with that. And then it went perfectly. But, you know, just imagine people driving by me like, man, that gosh darn He's at it again. So,
look at him go.
Look at him go. I need to hire him over at my yard. I went on to bed. And so this guy has scratches underneath his clothes. And here's the thing, too, man. It's just so freaking scary. Before the incident, he'd reported hearing a strange female voice behind him. Like it was whispering right at the base of his neck.
Wow.
The team caught the whole thing on camera, and they also caught those floating lights.
Yeah.
So it's not just some exaggerated campfire story. This is documented. Now, there's going to be people out there listening, and I get it, who are going to say, it's television. They've got a production budget.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe these people just put on a good show. And I get that.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is, if we ever do a live show in Romania, I'm okay to go to this place, but you're walking in first.
Okay, that's fine.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
We'll return after these messages.
At Sierra, discover great deals on top brand workout gear, like high-quality walking shoes, which might lead to another discovery.
40,000 steps, baby. Who's on top now, Karen?
You've taken the office step challenge a step too far. Don't worry, though. Sierra also has yoga gear. It might be a good place to find your zen. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Knowing you could be saving money for the things you really want is a great feeling. Talk to a State Farm agent today to learn how you can choose to bundle and save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Every day, thousands of Comcast engineers and technologists, like Kunle, put people at the heart of everything they create.
In the average household, there are dozens of connected devices. Here in the Comcast family, we're building an integrated in-home Wi-Fi solution for millions of families like my own. It brings people together in meaningful ways.
Kunle and his team are building a Wi-Fi experience that connects 1 billion devices every year. Learn more about how Comcast is redefining the future of connectivity at comcastcorporation.com/Wi-Fi.
The spirit of innovation is deeply ingrained in America, and Google is helping Americans innovate in ways both big and small. The Air Force Research Laboratory is partnering with Google Cloud using AI to accelerate defense research for air, space, and cyberspace forces. This is a new era of American innovation. Find out more at g.co/American innovation.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. From streaming to shopping, Prime helps you get more out of your passions. So whether you're a fan of true crime or prefer a nail-biting novel from time to time, with services like Prime Video, Amazon Music, and fast free delivery, Prime makes it easy to get more out of whatever you're into or getting into. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to learn more.
America's future can be determined by our dreams and our visions.
It was very intense, bright light.
For over 200 years, there have been reports of giant man-like creatures.
From another dimension, another world, I don't know.
The most intriguing mystery on the North American continent.
This is Joshua Cutchin, and you're at my home for weirdness. That would be rad.
All right, just when you think that we can't get any weirder and it's about time for our theories, good news if you like this kind of stuff. We're about to hit you with a whole new level of, no thanks, I'm good. All right. Whether or not you buy into ghosts and orbs and all that stuff, there's one thing that's kind of hard to ignore here, man. And that is people that go missing in this forest.
Wow.
And we're talking a lot of people. We're not talking about a few, like a handful of hikers, okay? We're talking, it's estimated that over 1,000 people have disappeared in or around this forest over the years. And I mean completely vanished. No footprints, no gear, no goodbye notes, gone. Now, there are a few rare cases where someone has turned up, but even those are laced with enough weird to make your skin crawl, man. Check this out. One of the most famous stories involves a little girl. She was 5 years old, okay?
Oh, no.
She disappears into this forest and is gone for 5 years, man.
Wow.
Naturally, her family assumes the worst. Then, one day, just as suddenly, she reappears.
Oh, man.
Walking aimlessly out of the trees like nothing had happened.
Fairy abduction.
Still wearing the exact same clothes she had on the day she disappeared.
Wow.
The clothes weren't torn, they weren't sun-bleached, no damage at all, not even muddy. When they asked her where she'd been, she looked at them like they were crazy. Because to her, no time had passed at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's even hard for me to, like, as I'm reading it, it's like, I don't know, man. It's just so hard to believe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's very, very reminiscent of which most of the time these don't end well, but some of the
Navigator. What's
well,
that?
Well, yeah, Flight of the Navigator for sure, but the missing 411
right
stuff, you know, where it's like no time has passed. They were like, oh, I just kind of got lost and I didn't realize where I was, and then I was able to wander back onto the path, and then here I am. And it's like, dude, you've been gone for like 3 days.
Right.
You know, and it's been like, you know, storm and freezing weather and all this like crazy stuff, but they have no like, you know, no like recollection of any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's wild.
In some ways, it's like almost, well, it's not as tragic as just disappearing altogether, but it is still tragic. You know, you come back, all these people have aged, things have changed.
Yeah.
And it's like the time didn't move for you at that moment, you know?
Yeah. It's like you know, Rip Van Winkle in the up in the Catskills. It's that same kind of thing. Which actually, I just read an article that was talking about the, like, I probably shouldn't even bring it up unless I have the info in front of me, but something about like there was an actual case that like inspired this, that had happened like 10 years prior, that inspired Rip Van Winkle.
Oh, okay.
And it was the same kind of thing. Like a dude went missing for like months, and then just like he said, he popped back up, and he's same clothes, you know, has no idea that he's been gone for that long. And
man, can you imagine what that would do to your mind?
I mean, I experienced this. I mean, granted, it was only like a few hours, but well, yeah, actually, you're correct, because I still have nights where I just lay awake, just wondering, like, what the hell
if it happens
happened?
again? Or what if it happens again?
Or what if it happens again?
You wake up, your kids are like 30, and you're like, huh.
Oh, no, that's terrifying.
You know what I mean? Like that would keep me awake. You should probably never sleep again. So,
putting a coffee maker.
Right. So the Hoia-Baciu, Hoia-Baciu has also become a hotspot for, you guessed it, Frank Stallone. I'm kidding. For UFO sightings.
Oh, yeah.
And not just grainy, shaky phone camera stuff. This story that really blew up in 1968 when this biologist named Alexandru Sift went into the forest to study the weird electromagnetic activity, and instead came out with clear photos of a disc-shaped craft hovering above the trees.
Wow.
Just a few months later, a military technician named Emil Barnia captured more photos of a flying saucer, this time in broad daylight above a clearing. Of course, you know, the photos spread fast, and suddenly this place wasn't just a local ghost story anymore.
Yeah.
It became ground zero for some of the clearest, most compelling UFO evidence of the 20th century, actually. And of course, the activity didn't stop there. And this is where I love it, man, when it gets to this. So fast forward to 2002, two residents from, and I could be saying this incorrectly, so to all our Romanian friends, I'm sorry, Cluj?
Made it
I'm
up.
not sure. These two folks were living in a high-rise, and they caught 27 seconds of footage showing a long, bright, cigar-shaped object slowly cruising over the forest. The thing was about 50 meters long and eventually just disappeared into the clouds.
Man,
so
that's
now we've
amazing.
got people vanishing, reports of missing time, flashes of memory loss, and weird floating objects in the sky. Naturally, some of the people are kind of putting pieces together and saying, oh, it must be alien abductions. I mean, it checks a lot of those boxes, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, as crazy as this all sounds, it's still not done if we're still not ready to talk about theories yet, man, because just like Tyler mentioned earlier, we got to talk about one of this forest's strangest physical features, which is a place that everyone calls the clearing, or more ominously, the dead zone. There's this perfectly circular patch of land that's about 300 meters wide, right in the heart of this forest. And the weird part is nothing grows in it. There's no grass, no weeds, no trees, no shrubs, just dirt, man. And not like dry desert dirt, but just like dead space.
It sounds a lot like Rendlesham Forest, which is that. Do you know about Rendlesham?
I mean, it sounds familiar, but go ahead.
They call it it's like the UK's Roswell, where I think the guy sort of was projected like hieroglyphics into his mind, and like
yes.
It's the same kind of thing. It's like this like dead zone, which is interesting because I don't know where I land on UFOs anymore, but there's clearly something happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, people have done what I would do basically. Scientists have gone in there, taken soil samples, checked for chemicals, which would have been my first thought. Okay, well, maybe this is just like chemically, there was a spill a long time ago or something.
Or even like radiation.
Yeah, radiation, toxins. It came up empty, dude. Nothing.
Yeah.
The soil, in fact, in the circle was tested, and it's found to be the same as the surrounding forest. There's literally no logical reason why nothing should grow there. And keep in mind, folks, this circle is just completely surrounded by this thick, lush forest.
I wonder if, like one of the most fascinating things with like crop circles is they'll do these tests and they're able to see that like the wheat or whatever, where they're able to basically see that like it was in these, these landing zones or these in the crop circles, that the inside of like the bulb or like the seed basically was heated up like from the inside, like microwave, basically. And I wonder if they've done any of those kind of.
I mean, everything that they tested just came back at zero. Yeah. Wow. And the other thing about this area too is any electronics brought into the circle begin to go haywire. Cameras shut off, batteries drain to 0% instantly, compasses spin, radios crackle with static, and then any kind of readings and stuff like electromagnetic just go off the charts.
Dude,
infrared, microwave anomalies, dude, even radioactive readings that should not be there.
I wonder if, you brought up like the black fog. Like this feels a lot like the Bermuda Triangle and like the electric fog or electronic fog, where it's like this weird electromagnetic, like sort of moving cloud of fog that like messes with your compass and all the electronics in your plane. That's interesting, man.
Yeah, it's very bizarre, man. It's almost like this is one perfect circle. Is like this perfect circle is basically like this epicenter of all the weirdness that happens throughout this forest,
I mean, also, is this, all roads for us, lead back to like the fairies somehow, but like, is this something similar, or are we explaining the same thing that, the people 1,000 years ago in the British Isles would have said was like a fairy ring or a fairy circle?
Yep.
Like, is it kind of the same thing,
Right, yeah.
We will return after these messages.
Hey there, travelers. Kaylee Cuoco here. Sorry to interrupt your music, great artist BT Dubs, but wouldn't you rather be there to hear it live? With Priceline, you can get out of your dreams and into your dream concert. They've got millions of travel deals to get you to that festival, gig, rave, sound bath, or sonic experience you've been dreaming of. Download the Priceline app today, and you can save up to 60% off hotels and up to 50% off flights. So don't just dream about that trip. Book it with Priceline.
Go to your happy price, Priceline.
This episode is brought to you by Chevy Silverado. When it's time for you to ditch the blacktop and head off-road, do it in a truck that says no to nothing. The Chevy Silverado Trail Boss. Get the rugged capability of its Z71 suspension and 2-inch factory lift. Plus, impressive torque and towing capacity thanks to an available Duramax 3-liter turbo diesel engine. Where other trucks call it quits, you'll just be getting started. Visit Chevy.com to learn more.
Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. Earn 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. And with a welcome offer of 150,000 points after you spend $20,000 on purchases on the card within your first 3 months of membership, your business can soar to new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
There's something out there waiting for us.
Hey, this is Woody.
And this is Tyler. And you're listening to That Would Be Rad.
And now, back to our show. So some of the local legends say that this is the exact spot where the murdered peasants' spirits gather.
Yeah.
Others say that this is where the veil is the thinnest, where you're most likely to see ghosts or stepping into another world entirely. And here, finally, Tyler had to just hold him back this whole time. This is where we're going to get into the theories.
Yes.
Because so many people have a theory about this place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so some people believe that there's a dimensional portal in the forest, like a gateway to another realm that we accidentally stumble through sometimes, which could explain the vanishing people, the reappearing girl, missing time, and maybe even the glowing orbs, honestly. Others think that there's an alien base buried deep below the forest floor, causing all these bizarre electromagnetic effects, manipulating time and space, and of course abducting people for reasons we probably don't want to understand.
I mean, again, missing 411. It's like on those, for all of our non-U.S., non-domestic listeners, one of the interesting things about the national park, the disappearances, and again, if you haven't heard of this, there's a guy named David Paulides. He's written a lot of massive books called Missing 411. He has 2 documentaries, and it's these people that just completely vanish. Sometimes they reappear, but most of the time they just disappear completely, like 3 feet away from somebody. Somebody would just completely vanish in the national parks. And the interesting thing is a lot of these, if you look at like a heat map of underground caves and caverns in the U.S., it's like a perfect overlay of where all this stuff's happening. So it's like, maybe that is. And then you get into some of the hellier stuff and like the sort of the goblins that live underground or inner earth kind of stuff. I think there could be something to it.
Yeah. Well, I think you're going to like this one.
Okay.
Some people believe that Hoia-Baciu was the true center of the Atlantis civilization.
Whoa.
According to this theory, the Atlanteans had advanced tech that let them open portals to other parts of the world or even other worlds, which honestly, I mean, that would at least explain the microwave and radiation spikes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
And I mean, having it like, I think to me, the one that's out of the gate that I thought when I started researching this was, you know, it's easiest for me to be like, oh, portals, you know, that explains it. Time warps, ghosts even. But let's talk about some of the more sort of grounded theories people have tried to float about what's going on here. Some researchers think that the answer could be something called, of course, infrasound, specifically ultra-low frequency sound waves.
Yep.
Now, these are basically, if you're new to this idea, they're sounds that are too low for the human ear to actually hear.
Yeah.
But even though you can't hear them, your body feels them.
Oh, yeah. Elephants do it. A lot of Bigfoot.
Yeah, reportedly, yeah.
Is associated.
And I don't know if you guys have ever, there's this type of, it's an electronic lighter that exists out there, okay? And it just like, you click it on, and instead of a flame, it's just like this little spark. Now, this thing emits a very, very high-pitched sound that only our kids can hear.
Oh, I've heard of this, yeah.
Dude, I thought we were over at a friend's house, and I thought we were being pranked by these dadgum kids because I was like, what are you guys talking about? They're like, turn it off. We're like, what are you saying? All of us parents are like, what are you talking about? So I made them put it behind the mom, like the mom had it behind her back. I was like where I could see whenever she would turn it on, and I could see the kids' reactions. She would be like, okay, I'm going to turn it on. She wouldn't, and they'd be like, it's not on. She would click it. They're like, turn it off. And it's like, that alone is weird enough for me. I'm like, there's no way. How can I not hear that? You know?
Well, the weird thing about this too is, so I've seen studies where they do the same thing. And I originally thought, you know, especially if we're involved and, you know, years of touring, it's like, oh, we definitely have a high
Our ears are damaged.
Roll off. Yeah. We're just missing that frequency range. But they've done testing to where it's like right at a certain age. It's like 18 or 19 is like sort of a cutoff. So like everybody under it can hear like a certain sort of band of frequencies, if you will. And then anybody over it, they can't, which is like, it's just weird.
Yeah. And that's kind of the only thing that I can sort of relate to personally because, you know, and it makes sense.
Well, also I've sort of took it even a step further in my thinking of like, you know, I mean, Nikola Tesla says, you know, the secrets to the universe is, what is it? Vibration, resonance, and frequency. And so, you know, we always talk about how kids, you know, are able to see things like the veil is thinner or they're able to sort of experience these things. What if all these things are sort of somewhat connected to sort of sound and resonance and frequency? And so like you're just seeing in real time this like as they get older, they sort of lose that ability, which is, I don't know.
And like, I think specifically to like these high pitched things that we can't hear, there's physiological reason behind that. Like we lose some of the inner ear, like air as we get older. And so that's why. And so, yes, I mean, that's the thing that's crazy about it is the answer is like, yes, that happens, you know? And think about it too, in terms of the physical side effects that people experience, because this happens with these sound waves. They have these headaches, nausea, dizziness, uncontrollable anxiety, and even sometimes hallucinations.
Yeah, right.
Well, think about it this way, man. Your body also can respond to changes in atmospheric pressure, you know, triggering migraines and headaches, nausea, dizziness, anxiety. You know, little things in our own environment can trigger these things. And, you know, it kind of matches up with a lot of what people were reporting after visiting this place. I mean, you think about it too, man. Sound waves show up in nature. I think we take a lot of it for granted. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, thunder. You know, there's this like primordial energy that exists, you know.
Yeah.
And maybe there's something under this forest, some sort of geological feature that we just haven't experienced or don't know enough about yet, or maybe even something man-made that's pumping out these deep frequencies.
Well, that's what I was going to say too. I don't know that I necessarily believe this. I feel like this is more of a more ancient kind of thing, but there are these like towns where these people will just hear this weird like humming, and I think a lot of that goes back to, DUMBs, it's an acronym for deep underground military bases that are all over the place. Here in the US, like they're literally all over the place. And so I think a lot of times, and also like people will talk about hearing like what they call sky sounds, to where it'll kind of sound like a trumpet. And, a lot of people are like, oh, it's, Jesus is coming back. It's like Gabriel's trumpet kind of thing. But I think it's sort of this like drilling or like stuff going on like in these, deep underground military bases.
Yeah. And I'm going to take that idea maybe a step further, or should I say backward even. What if, and I mean, we can kind of think of it in a couple different ways, but what if there is something that occurs naturally that is emitting this as almost like a natural means of sort of keeping people away? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So it could be something nature-based, or it could be, instead of military or whatever, if there are things such as, fae folk.
Yeah.
Maybe they're the ones that have that, whatever it is, power, machine, whatever, that causes, and maybe because over time it's sort of had a reverse effect, it's going to actually attract people to wonder and come here and figure it out. But still, at the end of the day, some of them are going to disappear. They're going to feel bad. They're going to pass out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it kind of reminds me too of like and I know we've talked about it, but there's this thing called like fairy blast, where they also call it like an owl blast, where it's like this massive like wind blast that the fae was able to do. And so it kind of, I just sort of think of it in that way too. Is that like less about, because you're ancient people, they're not going to understand like infrasound and like subsonic frequencies, but this sort of, to them, what appears to be like a blast of wind, is that actually something more akin to like some sort of subsonic, inaudible sound that's causing them like,
sort of silent but deadly. Is that what you're?
I mean, well, actually, yeah. But we talked about like these sort of subsonic frequencies associated with Bigfoot, and people claim that they just have this feeling of dread and that like, I've got to get out of here. And so, you think of like what they call like what is it called? Like it's not like the brown sound, but it's like a frequency that like they were working on like, back in like the Nazi days, where they were able to sort of manipulate like sound, like certain machines were able to create sound that would cause people to like lose their mind, or, it would evacuate their bowels, or all these kind of crazy things. And I wonder if a lot of this stuff, like maybe it is coming from a more sort of paranormal or whatever source, like what if it's kind of doing that thing?
Right.
Which to me, I always think of, the pyramids, Coral Castle, all that stuff is based on sound, something to do with sound in my opinion.
Here's the thing. I know we're kind of putting our feet down in some concrete thought about this being infrasound, but here's the thing, bro. Infrasound doesn't toss backpacks into the woods.
Oh, yeah, true.
It also doesn't carve scratches into people's arms through long sleeves, you know?
Yep.
So I think it's one sort of spoke of this wheel here of things that could be potentially what's going on. It also doesn't really explain this dead zone where nothing grows and electronics is shutting down. But because it's like for every sort of grounded explanation that pops up, there's something right behind it. In this place specifically, where it's like, nice try, but here there's still this weird thing. Despite all the sensors and cameras and electromagnetic readings, thermal scans, ghost boxes, it seems like everybody's just kind of scratched the surface here. You've got scientists that have come to test things, paranormal investigators, UFO researchers, even folks from the spiritual and esoteric side of things, trying to make sense of it all. But from all over the world, PhDs, physicists, and your average late-night Reddit deep divers have made their way into the forest, hoping for some answers, just like we are, man. And some people think that maybe it's some sort of spiritual amplifier.
Yeah.
Apparently, like, there are folks that sort of follow the Wiccan tradition that flock to the forest to perform rituals, cast spells, and charge up charms. Others come just to feel the energy. And, you know, whether they call it sort of ley lines or ancient spirits or something, you know, cosmic, they just go there. And, you know, just like everything, there's folks that go there for the good.
Yeah.
And there's even talk of some darker groups using this space for their own sort of quote-unquote ritualistic purposes.
All right. So I guess we're just going to give what we think could be happening. I mean, personally, I'm kind of torn, but I want to hear what do you think? If you had to sort of put money on it.
Would I still get paid if I said I don't know?
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's a little bit of everything. You know, a little bit of Monica on the thing.
Okay.
I kind of feel like it's a little bit of everything.
God, Lou Bega. What happened to that guy?
Yeah, I don't know. It always reminds me of The Office whenever Michael's doing that. He's like, a little bit of Monica on the thing. Yeah, I mean, it's so weird, man. And I've read some sort of like attempted, it's funny, I found this article where it was awesome how it was written because they kind of showed some early theories about, you know, just using the trees as an example. One of the theories initially was, well, maybe when the Nazi tanks rolled through there, they kind of like, you know, bent some of these trees. And then it was like, yeah, but there's pictures of these trees before the...
Yeah.
You know, so there's all these...
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Right. I don't know, man. There's just so much weird going on here. I said, if I was going to pick one that I think it would be closest to what I think it would be some sort of, window area, I guess is probably the best way to put it. I mean, a portal potentially, maybe, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's the entrance into the hollow earth.
Yeah, I mean, I do kind of think, I don't know, it's odd because it's like, you know, present day Romania, ancient day Transylvania. While I don't go to vampires per se, I do kind of think that I don't know, it does feel sort of fairy-ish. It feels like a more kind of ancient thing. And I mean, I don't think saying that there was a, you know, quote unquote, like vortex, because there's clearly whatever's happening here is the exact same thing that I experienced in Montana at the Montana vortex. I think us looking at it through the lens of modernity and saying, oh, it's just some sort of electromagnetic occurrence. I don't think that takes away at all from, I think that's just the language that we've kind of tacked onto that. But I think this, you know, vortex, maybe it's where like the veil is thinner and all these things, you know, window areas, things are able to come through. One thought that I did have that I've always thought was kind of an interesting way of looking at the window areas is, you know, especially concerning seeing like apparitions. You know, you're talking about like seeing how these like faces, it'll kind of appear and then disappear. And even sort of the disembodied, you know, grabbing of a backpack or whatever. What if these window areas aren't necessarily just this malevolent thing? Like, what if it is a sort of a thinning of the veil, and it is a place where we're experiencing these things, but like, for example, so say you have, you know, the sort of the multiverse theory, but say that in this area we're on one plane of existence, and then you know, an inch over is this other dimension that's also happening simultaneously, and then this is a window area, and say the people on the other side suddenly see right beside them this sort of apparition of what they believe is a ghost or some sort of evil, entity or whatever, which all that is us. But they're just able to see it. And so they freak out and they like punch or kick or like, kind of freak out. And then to us on our side, maybe it's like not the right time. Maybe like the thinning, quote unquote, is happening at like a different, resonance or frequency or whatever. And so we don't see anything at that time. But what we do feel the effect of like that person like punching or kicking. And so to us, it just seems like, oh my God, like it was a ghost and it like pushed me.
Yeah.
When to them, they're just responding to what they think is a ghost, which is us.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I love that idea. I mean, I think we've kind of talked about that sort of before.
Yeah.
In terms of, I just like that idea.
Yeah.
We're a ghost to them, they're a ghost to us.
Right.
It's just an area where we're kind of crossing over and able to see each other's worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And that, it really honestly is one of the best explanations of what could be going on that I like to hear. It kind of gets a little bit more difficult when you think about, it was my dad that was visiting, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then it's like, well, how did that work?
Well, and that's the stuff that I think when I was talking at the beginning of the episode, us being like conditioned by like movies and stuff. I feel like that's sort of what's sort of been patterned for us. So, up until like, I don't know, the last like 10 years or so, I really think there's a more open-minded view that leans closer to like a lot of the theories that we sort of propose here on the podcast,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, the Ouija board, yeah, it said it was my Aunt Linda, but it's like, no, it's not your Aunt Linda. It's something masquerading as your Aunt Linda, And so everything isn't just, it's just the spirit of such and such, dead ancestor.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like that's such an easy way out that.
And like all the dancing lights are just like kids with their flashlights
right
shining into their parents' eyes.
Yeah.
On that side.
From the other side, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I mean, however, I will say, I do think.
Because you don't see them during the daytime.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, but would it always be nighttime?
Maybe our time,
it's like flipped
of day is the same,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I do think, though, I don't think this necessarily explains sort of the panic thing or, the god, which is derived from like the god Pan. Like I do think a lot of that fairy kind of Pan, sort of pagan, elemental kind of stuff, I still believe that there's a component of that in this for some reason. It's just like, it's kind of a gut feeling I have. It just feels like, I just feel like these old ancient forests kind of, they still may possibly house these things. I mean, and if you even look at it from like a biblical sort of Christian perspective, they talk about, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but principalities. And, and then you look in like the book of Enoch and like the principalities are these like beings that are not fully explained, but I do. And even Gary Wayne, I've referenced him a lot. He wrote a book called The Genesis 6 Conspiracy. And he talks a lot about all these sort of the bloodlines and really interesting stuff that come from like the Nephilim and stuff we've talked about here on the show. But he talks about how there's also sort of these Nephilim bloodlines also kind of merge over into sort of the fairy beliefs. And, Woody and I stumbled across the Fomorians, which were these beings that, showed up in like ancient Ireland on the shores. And, there's this belief that like, oh, well, maybe a lot of that sort of spurred the belief in like fairies. And I think a lot of that kind of stuff could be also going on here,
Right.
So like, I believe, and there's also like there's like a group of angels or like sort of a subclass, or not angels, but fairies called like the Amadan, I think, or something like that. But they are known to do the same kind of stuff. I mean, a lot of these entities, if you will, are known to be like tricksters, but like this stuff for them, this sort of subclass of fairies are known to be a lot more sort of malevolent. Like it's less about like, oh, we're just sort of tricksterish and we're going to steal your candy bar that you've left out.
Right.
It's like less about that and more this sort of territorial kind of thing. And they were much kind of darker and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know, maybe something like that. And also, I mean, maybe like we said, multiple things are happening, and maybe these fairies that, much like tales of like the jinn and stuff in sort of the Middle East, maybe the reason we don't see them is because they're existing in like, a plane, an inch over. So,
yeah.
It's just one of those things, like we're just unable to see them. It's not because it's like magic or anything like that. It's because they're just existing in a different sort of vibrational state, if you will.
Man.
So,
yeah. I mean, it's one of those things too that I always kind of joke that like this type of topic, my wife would just be unnerved because there's no, at the end of the day, I don't have like the answer. I don't think anybody does really. We can, sort of theorize and sort of mix together a bunch of our knowledge of similar things, and ultimately it's just like, man, this place is this surreal, mind-bending patch of earth where the normal rules and that we've come to know as humans just don't apply.
Right.
You know? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, it's almost like the physics in the area just doesn't it doesn't adhere to the same like protocol as everywhere else kind of thing.
Yeah. It's just crazy, man.
Yeah.
And like the second that I saw this place, in a picture, I was like, dude, I got to find, what is this? And I don't even remember how it just like popped up, know? And it's just, I wanted to talk about it. And I can't believe, like I said earlier, I can't believe we'd never have. So I'm glad that we did.
Yeah, especially, and I was thinking, I didn't say this, but I was thinking this while you were talking earlier, especially the fact that there's like crazy amounts of like UFO evidence, like photos and, 27 minutes of watching these lights in the sky. Like the fact that, like, what's weird is I had heard of it when you brought up Joshua Gates, like Destination Truth.
Right.
Because I totally remember this episode.
But it's like 25 years ago that you said, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a long time. Yeah. But beyond that, like, I mean, maybe we've heard of it, but it is weird that like it's not like a mainstay in sort of stuff we talk about. You know what I mean? Like it's weird that we've never brought it up before.
I know.
If you also live near a haunted forest, drop us a line, say hello over on our Instagram. If you would like to tell us about that haunted forest, and it's more long form, shoot it to thatwouldberadpod@gmail.com. If you would like to tell about that haunted forest in your own voice, you can do so over on our website, thatwouldberadpodcast.com, where you can leave a voice memo and possibly be featured in an upcoming episode and just, become part of That Would Be Rad history. We love that stuff. We love to hear about local legends, sort of, urban legends in your area that are more like localized and kind of smaller scale, that maybe haven't made their way onto the internet yet. And if you have any of this stuff, we would love to hear about it. Especially, I think a lot of people they get sort of defeated in like, well, I'm not gonna call or write in because it's just so weird. Like it's not a monster. It's just, there's just like smoke coming out of a tree in this area, or it's just these weird high strangeness stuff. But I'm here to say that's the stuff that we love the most. So it doesn't have to be about a dog man or, a Sasquatch encounter. It can be some bizarre story that you just can't explain. Like that's the stuff we really thrive on that stuff. So we'd love to have your own story. We have a few coming up that we're going to put in an episode. So if you have sent in your story or you have told your story on air, you'll probably be hearing about that soon. Tell a friend about the show. Give us a 5-star review if you have the time. It really makes a ton of difference on whatever podcatcher you're using. And I guess that's about it. What do you got? Anything else?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, we love you. We appreciate you. And as always,
be rad.
That's the way it goes. Clouds in a time where I just needed some sunshine. You were already dead before you became a ghost. You always said our future would be a parade of flowers, but now all that's left is a single rose. That's the way it goes.
Just cut all that.
Shh.